Okay, it's heading towards winter in the UK, and I thought it would be a good time to put together some tips for you for how to safely and efficiently commute to work on a bike like this in fact. You can catch our other video on how to set up this custom commuting bike right here. So this is a titanium frame, it's so-called 2.5. So regarding commuting, my first tip is to prepare for the weather. As you know, in the UK we've got quite variable weather. Over the winter season, what that means is on roughly 50% of days there'll be some kind of rain or precipitation, although significant rain, probably less than 1 in 5 days. That is still double the amount of rain in the summer. So you've got to be prepared for rain, and preparing for rain in the easiest way for commuters means wearing a very thin disposable or wrappable jacket. Of course you can wear a decent jacket all year round, but what I'm saying is prepare for rain even on non-rainy days by taking a compressible foldable jacket in your backpack or keeping one at work. Similar to that, on the topic of rain, you might want to kit out your bike with mud guards over the winter season, or at least one of these ass saver rear deflectors, which can really help when there's an unexpected downpour. Related to the topic of rain and staying comfortable, I'll give you an additional tip there, which is to take a change of clothes and a towel into work and leave a set in work just for, as they say, a rainy day. Leave a set in work for the most unexpected outcome. It's happened to me quite a few times when I've been caught short and had to wear wet clothes on the return journey, because I've had one set of clothes to change into, but I haven't had a dry cycling set to get back home. That's not something that's pleasant. I don't want you to be caught out. My next tip is be safe. Being safe on the roads mainly means cycling in a confident way. Beginners often cycle right to the edge of the pavement, right to the edge in the gutter, over all those little drains and drain covers. It's a bit of a nightmare to do that. Although you think you're making more space for cars and lorries, in the long run, it's not worth it. If you cycle in a more confident way, roughly 1 meter from the left-hand edge, it gives the message that you belong on the road. And generally, drivers will give you more respect. Further to this, if things narrow and it gets really tight, don't be afraid to ride right down in the middle of the road. Totally own the road. Where it's ambiguous, is it you or the car? You really don't want cars trying to squeeze by you in the smallest possible space. And if you own the road, that won't happen. However, I will place a caveat there for you, which is if you're being harassed or followed by huge vehicles, articulated lorries, dumper trucks, semis or big 4x4s, it's not worth the hassle. Even if you feel you're in the right of way, I generally recommend pull off the road or pull right to one side, come to a stop and let them carry on. We've got this perpetual problem in nearly all countries of poor visibility on the inner non-driver side of those big vehicles. So in the UK, when drivers of those big vehicles are turning left, and in the US and elsewhere when they're turning right, you don't want to be crushed in that low visibility zone. So I recommend you let those big traffic vehicles by and don't try and fight with them. Related to this, but I'm going to put this as a separate tip, being safe and being seen in the daytime deserves special attention. And one of my biggest tips for you is to use a decent set of lights day and night. What that means is, of course, everyone realizes the need for lights when it gets dark or at night, well, at least I hope you do. And that includes back and front, by the way. But did you realize the benefit of running lights in the daytime? Now, for about 3-4 months, I had no lights on the bike. I thought it was fine in the summer, but I was perpetually plagued by near misses, cars coming too close. My observation on this is if you run your rear LED and your front, but particularly your rear LED all through the day, even in the summer, cars give you more respect, they're more aware. Put it on flashing mode. Quick flashing mode is probably the best. It will be literally a red flag for drivers to give you more respect, the respect that you deserve. So consider attaching those lights and you're running them all year round. And on that note, it's cheaper to buy a set of USB rechargeable lights because you don't have to keep changing batteries. USB rechargeable is pretty cheap these days. There's lots of makes on the market, but for roadies, this RSP set, sometimes badged Rally Spectre, is available for £10 or £20. But slightly higher end, Exposure Trans, fantastic set for £30 or £40. Daytime running lights, guys. It's not just for Volvos. Okay, my next tip is about staying comfortable, and that includes being comfortable in all weathers. I covered rain, but what about cold temperatures and snow? In the UK, we don't get many snowy days. According to the Met Office, it's around 16 days a year when there's snow somewhere which actually settles. In reality, probably 10 days per year. Okay, no one's going to blame you if you don't cycle on a snowy day when there's snow or ice on the road. You don't have to be super macho about it. You can take a day off. But if you do want to cycle on those days, wrap up warm. Personally, I wear a base layer like this under my cycling gear throughout the winter. Even in the summer, I wear thin gloves for protection. And in the summer, I wear 2 pairs of gloves So they're basically thin pair of summer gloves plus mountain bike or cyclocross gloves with those plastic or rubber patches over the knuckles, just in case something happens. And there's been at least one time where I've come off the bike and I've been really grateful for that protection. So the base layer, sometimes bib tights or base layer tights under your cycling gear, they can be really key to keeping you warm. There's nothing worse than having cold feet, cold hands, or cold head on a really cold day, because it's made much worse by wind chill. If you're riding at 20 kilometers an hour and the temperature's approaching zero, it's the equivalent to riding at minus 15 or 20. It's that cold when you take into account the wind chill. Don't underestimate the wind chill factor when you're cycling along. I'm sure I don't need to tell you that. Another tip for road users, and I'm coming to the issue of helmets, but underneath the helmet on cold weather, you can wear a skull cap. They're really cheap on eBay, £1 to £2, $1 to $2 each. Wear it underneath your helmet and it keeps your head warm. So what about the helmet? Helmet, I recommend you wear it all year round. There's my helmet video. I'm not saying I'm on an evangelical push about helmets, but for commuters, dicing with traffic without a helmet, it doesn't mix, in my opinion. Wear a helmet, guys. Next, be prepared. What I mean by that is be prepared for punctures. On at least one occasion, I've punctured on the way to work, had to return home, get the car, go back to work, bring the bike home in the car because I wasn't prepared with a puncture repair kit or a spare tube. So be prepared with some basic tools, pump, and perhaps a spare tire. Think about what you'd need to change your tubes or change your tires at work. It's worth holding that spare kit there. Also, on the topic of being prepared, think about security. The last thing you want is to spec a decent bike and then have it stolen or have part of it stolen at work. I've had wheels stolen, I've had seat stolen, I've had seat and seat post stolen. So right now I leave a D-lock at work. I also don't leave the bike in a public place. I actually take it up into or outside the office. And if I am leaving the bike outside for any reason, I'll use a cable lock for the wheels, which I can also leave with the D-lock. So basically front and back wheel are secured as well as the frame. Also probably resist the temptation to use a quick release seat post fixing because it will probably be stolen. And you might even change your quick release wheel skewers to fixed ones or security ones, which you can get now, which are pretty neat, at least if you're in an area where you can't take your bike into a secure zone. Now let's come on to motivation. Yeah, it can be tough sometimes commuting in all year round, particularly if the weather's not good. Give yourself some credit, first of all. Give yourself some credit, burning those calories, staying fit, losing weight, being able to eat a more varied diet because of your energy expenditure. These are all positives. Never mind experiencing fresh air, hopefully in a non-polluted commute into work. Give yourself some credit for doing this. But if you want a bit of extra push, I actually recommend you upload your rides to Strava or one of the other GPS logging sites. Personally, I love Strava because it allows you to compare your stats against yourself as much as anybody else. You can see what your best times were, what your best segment times are, and create a commute to work segment, a commute from work segment, and that will give you extra motivation to keep going on those not so good days. And finally, my last tip is to choose your route. Choose your route carefully. So find the best route that suits you. The best route might not be the quickest route. For example, I've got a route which is extremely direct, but it's polluted by bad drivers because there's numerous small shops which drivers turn off to without signaling or without giving a moment's notice. It basically becomes a death trap down that road. Conversely, I've got what appears to be a fantastic route, which is basically a bridle way, like an off-road section, which goes on straight for several miles for half of the commute. In theory, this should be the ideal surface. The problem is the surface isn't maintained, it's very bumpy, there's lots of dog walkers down there and people not paying attention with their children or dogs on leads, and it basically becomes a bit of a commuting nightmare, particularly at those peak times. So actually I choose to go on the road, but I choose a road which is a little bit quieter than maybe the most direct route. Also a road which has a few cycle paths clearly marked out, and a road which is fairly well maintained. So choose the route that's best for you. Maybe you want to extend your route somewhat to make cycling more fun. Remember, commuting to work is not just meant to be a drudge, not just meant to be a pain, it's meant to be fun as well. Enjoy your ride, enjoy the fresh air, enjoy getting out on your bike, give yourself credit. If you're a commuter and watching this, I give you credit for riding to work. Keep it up, you're doing well. And if you're watching this and you're not commuting yet, just start with a little distance. My tip to start for the first time is ride to your workplace on a non-working day, for example, a weekend for the first time. Do it on the weekend when you don't have to get there, just to see how difficult it is. Go for a coffee, relax, and then cycle home. That way you'll have a kind of dummy run, a dry run to see how hard it is. And then on days when you do go in by car, prepare yourself by taking some kit into work, storing it safely. And by the way, my last thing is, if your workplace doesn't have showers or doesn't have anywhere to change or doesn't have a ride to work scheme, write to your employer and say, all these things should be standard by now. For heaven's sake, about 40 or 50% of the population in the Netherlands is commuting to work by bike. And yet 1 to 2% in the UK and less than 1% in the US are commuting to work by bike. Come on guys, let's get it together. Between us, we should be able to solve this one. That's it for now. Take care guys. Have a good ride.